episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor. It is the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. And today, no different at all, as we welcome back the man, Gavin Fish, who's always fishing for stories.
Yeah,
And
glad to be here.
Yeah, happy for you to be here. We are waiting. The COE hopefully is going to load in some things that we're going to talk about. Just so you know the lay of the land today, we're doing an hour with Gavin, and then Scott Duffy and Dr. Detective Troy Looney are going to join us on another fascinating case that's actually equally, or not equally, but very similar to this case, Ellen Greenberg, which is what we're about to talk about. And that involves an AI whistleblower. His name is Suchir Balaji, found dead under very suspicious circumstances. And that story includes characters like Elon Musk, who's calling out OpenAI, and Tucker Carlson. That thing is sure to pick up some steam. But I got to tell you, first of all, if you don't know this story at all, in 2 seconds, it goes back to 2011. Ellen Greenberg was a 27-year-old elementary school teacher, and it is a nor'easter that's rolling in on January 26th. She stops to get gasoline for her car. She's in the process of making a fruit salad, and lo and behold, at some point after that, her fiance, who is allegedly at the gym, comes up to find her no longer alive. He makes a couple of phone calls to some people in his family, namely his very powerful criminal defense attorney uncle and cousin. They eventually come over. He eventually calls 911. The 911 call sort of speaks for itself. But what is interesting is just this past Saturday, this was originally ruled a homicide. It gets switched to undetermined. There's a closed door shady meeting. And then after that, this back in 2011 is switched to a self-unaliving, as we like to call it here on YouTube. And lo and behold, 14 years later, there's a lawsuit filed, and they're supposed to go to court on Monday. Gavin and I are in Philadelphia. The day before, the original medical examiner, Dr. Marlon Osborne, he writes what's known as a verification document, signs off on it, saying it was not a self-unaliving. And that brings us to why we're here today. Brian Enton, who's a friend of mine and a friend of my wife, he happens to be a reporter for News Nation, and he was at a media press conference yesterday for Governor Josh Shapiro. Now, Governor Josh Shapiro is sort of indirectly and directly involved, and I'll let Gavin explain that. He is the former attorney general, now the governor of the state of California. And our friend Brian Enton had a chance to ask him about it. And when I heard his response, one of the very first people, besides banging my head on my table, one of the first people I texted was Gavin and said, my blood's boiling. And Gavin had already put out a very interesting tweet, sort of a point-counterpoint, showing how much the truth was not being told. But just to give you an example, I just went on to the internets just to see. And this story, which Gavin and I can both tell you, no one was really paying much attention to. Gavin picked up on it way before, has now really become alive. So ABC 27, which I think is closer to where Gavin is in Western Pennsylvania. These are the headlines. Josh Shapiro defends role in Ellen Greenberg case, reacts to new ruling. Governor Josh Shapiro defends role in Ellen Greenberg case. Governor Shapiro to Ellen Greenberg's family, quote, lashing out isn't going to change the evidence. You have to follow the evidence, Governor Shapiro responds. Ellen Greenberg's death, that's another one. Anyway, the Greenberg parents aren't too happy.
I wish he would have followed the evidence. That would have been great.
Yeah. So, Gavin, just give me your reaction. Where were you when you saw this interview? Your initial response, and let's go over your tweet. Actually, I'll pull that up.
Yeah, I got a link from our mutual friend and who works at 2020, and I watched it, and I was like, "What? How amazing that for 5 minutes he can say so many words and not speak the truth at all."
Mm.
It just shocked me, and
Yeah.
the conversation that we had over text was like, how is this even possible that somebody can say can just talk like that straight faced and lie the entire time? I, like,
Um,
all I can come to is it's just years of practice, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. We're gonna play this out, but this is, I mean, it's hard to see, but Gavin's emails rather lengthy from last night, and he said the Commonwealth's governor Josh Shapiro is a practiced liar, in my opinion. Look at how easy he was able to directly lie to Brian Enton. Here's what I caught, and then Gavin goes and points out different time codes. I think what I'll do, I'm going to
Sometimes
pull
they're
this
like
up.
1 second apart.
Yeah. All right, I'm
Bang,
gonna
bang.
pull this up. The first one is when he says they didn't look at every possible angle. Do you think I should
Yeah,
play this through and then we'll deconstruct it?
sure.
Just so okay, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna play. This is again Josh Shapiro. By the way, it is the power of the people. That's what makes America great. If you find the reaction to what most now believe, including the original medical examiner, is not a self-unaliving, but potentially a homicide. And you've got the governor who's close with the fiance's family, and there's a connection there. And then once you watch this and you see how he gaslights and puts it all on other people, if you're not happy about it, tweet at the governor, email the governor, call the governor, and let him know this guy plans to run for president. I don't want a president who's going to be lying incredibly easily through a press conference. Here we go. This is the entire bit. Kudos to News Nation, Brian Enton. And by the way, very quick note, I was supposed to wear my Space Coast shirt, which I will wear next week. However, in Miami, we have drawbridges. The bridge was up. I got stuck. I couldn't make it to get my shirt in time. Luckily, I had an extra shirt after the gym, and that's why I'm not wearing it. Here we go. Here, this is Josh Shapiro, the governor of the Commonwealth of PA.
You like to see happen? Do you think there should be a new criminal investigation?
Well, look, I don't think I should speak for the city of Philadelphia and why they chose to make the decision they did. But let me just offer maybe some broader comments. First off, as a father of four, my heart breaks for the Greenberg family. No parent should ever have to bury a child. And this is a case that I inherited as Attorney General that occurred, if memory serves me, about 6 years prior to me even becoming Attorney General of the Commonwealth. And it was a case that was put on my desk after the city of Philadelphia ruled that Ellen Greenberg died by suicide, not by homicide. That wasn't my decision. That was made years prior by the city of Philadelphia. The case was then sent to the Attorney General's office for investigation. And we looked at every possible angle. There's nothing I wanted more than to give these parents some finality, some answers, some clarity. And we received more evidence, more information during the course of our investigation that sadly didn't show what they wanted it to show, but actually rather pointed to more data, more information that pointed toward a suicide. At some point, the Greenberg family asked that we no longer consider the case. And under the Commonwealth Attorneys Act, I had the authority as Attorney General to transfer that case to a neighboring district attorney. And I did. We transferred it to the Chester County District Attorney, if memory serves me. They looked at it for a couple of years, and they found the same determination as well. There was no evidence there that supported a homicide. There was no evidence there that supported any sort of criminal charges against anyone else. And they closed the case. So over the span of whatever it's been, over 10 years, over a decade, you've had 3 or 4 different law enforcement agencies look at it and come to that same conclusion. The city of Philadelphia were the ones that began this process when they determined the cause of death. That's on them to explain why they determined that. That had nothing to do with the Attorney General's office or any district attorney's office. I'll end this, where I began. My heart really does break for the Greenberg family. And I know that, some maybe feel that lashing out at me in the media is helpful to their cause. I'm not going to stand in judgment of them. These are parents who are grieving and anguished. And again, I think no parent should have to bury a child. Lashing out isn't going to change the evidence here. And I'm hopeful that as this process goes forward, if any new information comes to bear, that it immediately be shared with the Chester County District Attorney and allow the DA there to conduct an investigation of that new material should anything come forward.
Do you think the medical examiner coming forward now, though, and saying he no longer believes it's a suicide is enough to push this forward? Now, I mean, that's a big change.
Yeah, I think that's a question for the DA in Chester County. It has to have some evidence with it, not just someone feeling different. But certainly if there's some evidence that this medical examiner has uncovered, I'm not familiar with that. I'm no longer the AG. If they have new evidence, new information, they should share that immediately. One of the things that was particularly frustrating to me when I was Attorney General is someone would have a press conference, claim to have new information. We would invite them into the AG's office, and then they actually didn't have anything that was particularly new, and they used the media to keep the issue alive. I understand why parents would want to keep this alive. I understand why they would want to find answers. I wanted nothing more than to be able to give them the answers that they wanted. But when you're in the role of being a prosecutor, you have to follow the evidence. And we never saw any evidence to suggest anything different. And then we shared the case with another district attorney, and they found the same.
We're going to break.
It just makes me want to scream.
Yeah, it makes, and you're so calm, Gavin. Like I'm out of my mind right now. So, we're gonna go through this piece by piece. But I just have many observations. But one of them, it's so interesting because when you look at the Sam Goldberg, he's Ellen Greenberg's fiance, statement to CNN. There's so many. There's interesting parallels. The biggest one, you heard, Josh Greenberg. Now he's now the victim. They want to lash out at me if they want to come at it. Now it's Josh Greenberg, the poor little Josh Shapiro. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Josh Shapiro, who is now the poor little victim. When this came out, when this little clip, when Brian Enton tweeted this out last night, I just want to share my response, and then we're going to get into Gavin's, which is more about kind of a point counterpoint. I wrote, "Kudos to Brian for confronting Governor Shapiro about Ellen Greenberg. A few quick thoughts," and this is before News Nation aired the full segment. "I hope on News Nation tonight we see more questions from Brian, where he asked the governor about his connection to Sam Goldberg's uncle and cousin, James Schwartzman, and cousin Camion, who Sam called before 911. Josh Shapiro went to high school with James Schwartzman's daughter. James also supported Josh's various campaigns. James was a powerful Philadelphia criminal defense attorney and a judge as well. With that said, I have been in Brian's shoes, and it's very difficult to ask even close to all your questions," which Brian addressed last night, and that is true. There is pressure at these things to move it along, especially since the news conference had nothing to do with Ellen Greenberg. Of course, it wasn't a news conference about that. And the point number 2 that I made, the governor, I think, is not so subtly gaslighting the Greenbergs. It's okay for them to lash out at me. Greenberg family did not want me handling it. Again, laying blame elsewhere. I don't think that's true, by the way, Gavin. We'll get to that. And of course, the quote here, we need more evidence other than what someone says. He was referring to the ME changing his ruling from a suicide to something other than a suicide just this past Saturday after 14 years. Anything but a suicide. He's not just someone, I wrote. Dr. Marlon Osborne issued the original ME report on Ellen. Shapiro in this thing made it seem like this is just some guy, in the streets of Philadelphia saying,
Yeah.
oh, no, yeah, I don't agree. But this is the medical examiner. And I said his words matter. I said we now need to hear from Dr. Osborne about why he initially switched his ruling from homicide to undetermined to then a self-unaliving after a closed-door meeting with Philly police, DA, the ME, and others. Governor Shapiro is very smart and very well aware of all of these details. Instead, he makes it essentially the Greenberg's problem that they're in this situation where, quote unquote, no parent should have to bury a child. Number 3, correct me if I'm wrong here, Gavin. He has authority as governor to order an investigation or order the Pennsylvania Attorney General to do so. Instead, he passed the buck again. He put the onus on Chester County DA, effectively still turning a blind eye. Number 4, his answer is so measured. These are the points that I picked up on. The governor is careful with every single word he says. There is zero genuine compassion, in my opinion. 5, he's very slick. I just found this personally interesting. When you watch him, he reminds me so much of President Obama, his manner of speaking, his gesticulating.
Yep.
Even when he does this, like, you know how President Obama would like do the old like bite
Yeah.
on the lower lip thing. I
No,
mean, it's
I had
down to
made
a
that
T.
observation. He's a combination of like Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan. He is a terrific communicator,
Yeah.
but he's not telling the truth.
No, exactly. But it's like, it's almost like when I saw that, it's almost like he was practicing in a mirror to be a politician. That's the point I'm making, is that
Yeah.
he's so measured, he's so slick. And then point number 6 I had here, Governor Shapiro is smooth, but this case is going to come back to bite the governor in his proverbial ass as well, as his presidential aspirations. However, it's never too late to step up and do the right thing. I'll be watching News Nation tonight, and good on Brian Enton and News Nation for applying some pressure to the man in charge of PA. So that was my little tweet after the fact. But Gavin sort of deconstructed this point by point. So, I mean, overall,
I couldn't handle
Gavin,
it. I was so angry.
Yeah,
I was so mad.
I don't know how do you want to do this? You want to give us your take first broadly, and then I'll play it,
Yeah,
and you
sure.
we'll stop it.
Yeah. Governor Shapiro is popular for a very good reason. He is a very good communicator, presents himself very well. I had the exact same thought when I was watching, like, man, I have not seen such a smooth speaker since Bill Clinton. Like, he's so good at it. Just very, and it's infuriating because when you've got somebody who can communicate that well, but make people believe that he's telling the truth, it's just extremely, extremely infuriating. He told some of the biggest lies in that press conference. He could, by the way, he could lie himself right into like he has the ability to still be president here, because he could say, you know what, I've seen new evidence. I now agree with Dr. Osborne. He could say that and people would believe him. But the fact is, all the evidence has always been there. There has never been anything, quote unquote, new that has been needed to be added to the file in order to arrive at the very reasonable conclusion that Ellen did not do it to herself. It's shocking to me that he pointed, he's like, hey, we uncovered new evidence in our investigation. No, you did not. They did not uncover new evidence in the investigation. They just pointed to evidence and said, this supports our theory.
Yeah.
That's so infuriating, man.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly, why I think politicians' approval ratings are so dismal, because they are and why maybe a guy like, or sort of appreciate a guy like John Fetterman, who happens to be from Pennsylvania, because the guy walks
Yeah.
around in a hoodie, like he's actually like who he is. But this answer too was just, it was a 5-minute, essentially a word salad or word
Yeah.
vomit, whatever expression you want to use. But I'm going to replay this, and you just jump in when you want to make a point, because I want you. I think the first one comes at they didn't look at every possible angle. But let's start this again, and you just jump in when you want me to, and I'll pause it there.
You like to see happen? Do you think there should be a new criminal investigation?
Well, look, I don't think I should speak for the city of Philadelphia and why they chose to make the decision they did. But let me just offer maybe some broader comments. First off, as a father of 4, my heart breaks for the Greenberg family. No parent should ever have to bury a child.
That might be the only true thing
And
he says.
this is a
entire 5
case
minutes.
that I inherited as Attorney General that occurred, if memory serves me, about 6 years prior to me even becoming Attorney General of the Commonwealth. And it was a case that was put on my desk after the city of Philadelphia ruled that Ellen Greenberg died by suicide.
Let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. First of all, the city of Philadelphia never did any such thing. What happened was the police screwed up on the night that Ellen Greenberg died, came into the situation in the middle of a nor'easter, and through a series of decisions that I can only imagine as just incompetence, they decided she did it to herself. Let's move on. They never saw anything happening to the back of her head. And once her body got to the medical examiner's office, and Marlon Osborne the next day goes, I think we've got a homicide here. The Philadelphia PD engaged in a concerted public effort through the media to discount and discredit Dr. Osborne. And it lasted a couple of months. And it's all on the record. It was in the Philadelphia Inquirer, it was on the, 6 ABC, it was everywhere. And after that long public pressure and what Josh and Sandy called a clandestine meeting with the district attorney's office, with the Philly PD, with his boss, and with Dr. Osborne, did he cave to that pressure? The city of Philadelphia never said, oh, she did this to herself. It was a long drawn out concerted conspiracy to change that.
So that's lie number 1. I guess, maybe a lie is harsh, maybe a falsehood, maybe a mischaracterization. I don't know.
Yeah, he's trying to be really smooth here. And I understand that you can't tell the entire story, right? You can't, that he'd be in that press conference still, but
yeah, of course.
It's not.
Accurate. He also makes there's a couple points where he's like, if I recall, this is a decade or more. This guy knows every detail of this case.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
He's prepared.
Yeah. So Gavin, you stop me again, but just look at this guy. I mean, this guy he is publicly and privately, but more privately, told people that he plans on being the first Jewish American president of the United States of America, which I'm all for as a Jewish guy, but not if you're not being truthful or honest. So again, Gavin, you just jump in. This is your video to dissect.
It wasn't my decision. That was made years prior by the city of Philadelphia.
Don't take it back a hair.
Prior to me even becoming Attorney General of the Commonwealth. And it was a case that was put on my desk after the city of Philadelphia ruled that Ellen Greenberg died by suicide, not by homicide. That wasn't my decision. That was made years prior by the city of Philadelphia. The case was then sent to the Attorney General's office for investigation. And we looked at every possible angle.
Pause right
There's
there.
nothing I wanted more than
Real quick, we looked at every possible angle. That is But just so you guys know, 'cause someone mentioned this, I spoke to Dr. G Explains, who is a body behavior expert. He is going to dissect this for us, and we're going to put it on the new second channel,
Awesome.
STS True Crime Talk, or what, I don't even know the name of the second channel, COES. But anyway, go ahead, Gavin.
The thing that everybody needs to recognize is that in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, the chief of the homicide crew, whatever team, was a woman named Jennifer Selber. She was Guy DeAndrea's boss. She was the one in charge of homicide. When Josh Shapiro was elected AG and he went to that office, he brought Jennifer Selber, Chris, there are a few others from that team in the homicide squad. They were the homicide team of the DA's office into the attorney general's office. Jennifer Selber is still like his lead counsel in the governor's office. Okay. So to say that they looked at it from every possible angle, it was the exact same team that conspired with the Philadelphia PD to call it a self-unaliving, who then claimed that they looked at it from every angle in the AG's office. It was the same group of people.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to like intimate that Shapiro was necessarily running the cover up, but he was, in my opinion, at the very least, turning a blind eye. And you gotta put this in context. This family is a very powerful. The fiance's family is a very powerful family, and not only are they powerful, they have personal ties to the then Attorney General Josh Shapiro. Again,
They call each other friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. My mom is here. What was Shapiro doing professionally before becoming Attorney General? He was a state rep, correct, Gavin?
Yeah. Before that, he was a township supervisor. He was never a prosecutor. He was
Interesting.
never a prosecutor.
By the way, Tom Brennan, who is the private investigator for the Greenberg family and is a really cool guy, in his 80s, still working hard. He's doing it pro bono. He had some very choice words for the governor, and I'm trying to get him back on.
Not a fan of the governor.
Yeah, and definitely not. All right, I'm going to keep playing. Gavin, you jump in.
To give these parents some finality, some answers, some clarity. And we received more.
I don't think that the incentives align that he really wanted to give truthful answers. He wanted to give finality, 100%. He wanted to close this case. But the incentives, I'm a big fan of looking at the incentives for the way that humans behave, either positive or negative, incentives or disincentives, whatever. Josh Shapiro didn't have any incentives to tell the Greenbergs the truth. He had an incentive to continue the lie.
Yeah. By the way, special shout out to Annalie Finch. She and I talked via email offline. Glad to see her here. Always kind in the chat. We're going to continue on. Gavin, you stop me at the next point. By the way, again, we're going to just do an hour today, but after this, Brian Etten happened to speak to a guy named Dr. Wayne Ross, and he has some very interesting things to say. We're going to play that for you too, but let's get through this.
More evidence, more information during the course of our investigation.
No, they didn't. No, he said that they got more evidence in the course of their investigation. They did not. They did not get new evidence in the course of their investigation. What he is referring to is a spreadsheet that is a dump of the cache that was on Ellen's computer that they say point to her seeking to harm herself. But digital forensics experts have said, no, those are what are called ghost searches. If you go onto CNN, for example, and they happen to have an article about self-unaliving, that cache from that article and any ad that is connected to it will dump onto your computer. She hadn't actually searched for painless ways to end her life. And if she had, why did she supposedly stab herself 20 times? It's not painless. Extremely painful So yeah, they did not get any more evidence. It did not show that Ellen was looking for ways to end her own life.
Yeah, man, it's hard. The COE was yelling at me last night that I get too emotional, and and by the way, Carm called, "Don't get yourself killed. Don't say anything stupid about the governor." Blah blah blah. But I couldn't care less. Come at me. Here we go. Gavin, you stop me when you need to.
Show what they wanted it to show, but actually rather pointed to more data, more information that pointed toward a suicide.
Yeah.
At some point, the Greenberg family asked that we know, rather pointed to more.
I mean, just watch this right here. I mean, if he didn't study Barack Obama to a T, like I literally think he studied him in a. Watch this. I mean, you don't see Barack Obama here.
Data, more information that pointed toward a suicide. At some point,
Right there,
he knew he just lied. He had to swallow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, this is going to be interesting with Dr. G, but it's crazy. I mean, this is so, for a guy who's as smart as he is, it's amazing how ill prepared he was for this. But let's go on, and you stop me, Gavin.
the Greenberg family asked that we no longer consider the case.
Okay,
and
let's
under the
pause it
Commonwealth
right there.
Attorneys Act, I had the authority as Attorney General to transfer that case to a neighboring district attorney.
Yeah, let's pause
And
it
I
there,
did.
Joel.
We transferred.
Yeah.
The Greenbergs never asked him to kick the case. That never happened. To my knowledge, I mean,
Yeah.
that never happened. What happened was a viewer of mine sent me an anonymous tip saying the Attorney General's office is never going to fully investigate this case because they are close to Sam Goldberg's family. And specifically told me that he went to high school with Kimby Schwartzman. I did my research. I took a couple weeks on it. I've still got it in my office. I bought his senior year yearbook off of eBay, right? Like I did the whole research, and yeah, they're on Twitter. He called Wayne and Kimby. Wayne is her husband, friends, you know, and he attends the same temple, for example, as the Goldbergs. You know, these people are friendly with one another. I published that on YouTube, and I think I published that on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And on Friday, I think he had enough calls from the media that he very quietly, through Annie McCormick, a local ABC reporter, said, there's no actual conflict of interest, as people are saying, but I think there's an appearance of a conflict of interest, so I'm kicking the case. And he sent it back to Philadelphia. And I think what he just leaked out here, he should not have had any power in determining where the case eventually landed. It landed in Chester County. I think that he sent it to Chester County because at the time, Deb Ryan was the Chester County DA. Also goes to, I mean, like, okay, so this has nothing to do with heritage or religion. It has to do with the community and the group that they're all a part of, right?
Correct.
But Deb Ryan was in that same group of people. She was in that same community. She attended the same temple. They all knew each other. So I think that he was the one who made it go over to Chester County when he shouldn't have done that. Larry Krasner should have done that.
Here we go. Here's more of this. And again, it's just interesting to watch just how careful he is with what he's saying. And as for as careful as he's being, it's amazing what he's spewing. Here we go.
Yeah.
It to the Chester County District Attorney, if memory serves me. They looked at it for a couple of years and they found the same determination.
Okay, let's pause. No, they didn't. They didn't find the same determination. They specifically kept the case open.
Mm-hmm.
They specifically kept the case open. They did not find a determination that Ellen had done it to herself. What they found was they could not pass. the reasonable beyond a reasonable doubt. They couldn't make it to the bar of beyond a reasonable doubt. They didn't feel like they could present it to a jury yet. So they kept the case open, hoping that there would be new information that came in so that they could then eventually present it to a jury. He's telling the public here, hey, Philly DA, the Philly PD came to a conclusion. The Philly DA came to a conclusion. My office came to a conclusion. Chester County came to a conclusion. But that is not the case. That is not the case at all. Chester County did not come to the same conclusion. And remember that the Philly DA and the Commonwealth's AG's office were the same group of people.
That's very interesting and important. Here we go.
No evidence there that supported a homicide. There was no evidence there that supported any sort of criminal charges against anyone else. And
You had mentioned that in your tweet.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there is so much evidence that supports a homicide. Now, what he said the second time around was that support criminal charges. Now, that is true. Every prosecutor has the ethical duty not to bring charges unless they believe they can cross that threshold of beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think that the new Chester County DA, because Deb Ryan got a seat on the bench, so there's his name is Christopher Barena Sarobe. I think that he looked at it and I think he honestly said to himself, I don't think a jury will convict. Let's keep it open and wait and see if more comes in.
By the way, I love this community and I love Gavin's community. We're not even a drop in the bucket. And most people are not following this story, don't even know about this story. But I think the voters and the constituents would be very interested to hear about this. And the way to do that is take Gavin's content, my content, whoever, Brian Enton's content, tweet, retweet, share it, make your voices heard, reach out to Governor Shapiro's office. You can reach out to the Philadelphia DA, Chester County, but just make noise. That's the most important thing. This is Governor Josh Shapiro yesterday being confronted by News Nation's Brian Enton about the Ellen Greenberg death, which just this past Saturday, the original medical examiner, Dr. Marlon Osborne, made it publicly known that he does not believe her death was a self-unaliving, which has been what has been the narrative for the last 14 years.
they closed the case. So over the span
They did not
of
close the
whatever,
case.
Yeah.
They did not close the case.
We just saw a press release recently. It is open.
open.
It's inactive status pending new developments or information, which we now have, right?
And by the way, he's about to tell another lie. The Chester County, just to preempt this and we can move on. Chester County did not look at any of the evidence that came to light because of the lawsuits that Josh and Sandy brought. They did not look at the clandestine meeting. They did not look at Dr. Emery saying this stab wound in the back of Ellen's neck happened post-mortem. They did not look at that. They did not look at Dr. Osborne saying, I was pressured to do this, and they told me that Sam Goldberg had a witness of him breaking down the door. You know, there were like 4 major things that Dr. Osborne brought up in his verification that Chester County did not look at. And I think had they looked at it, I think there's enough here to satisfy the burden of beyond reasonable doubt. I really do.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get there. Obituary, good name for true crime, the OH. Gavin, how would you answer this question? Is he uninformed, ignorant, or lying, the governor?
I think he's lying. There may be members of his team that, in order to protect him, have not told him everything. That's possible. But I think the probability here is, again, looking at incentives. He has friends that will be damaged if this case goes to some sort of resolution, homicide kind of resolution, a trial or whatever. He has friends that will be harmed. And so his incentives are to stop that from happening.
Yeah. I still do want to we got about 20 minutes left, and I still want to get to Dr. Ross. So we'll continue to play Governor Shapiro. Any big
I'll try
things
not to
here?
interrupt as
No,
much.
no. It's fine. It's hard because he's telling untruths or half truths every other second. Here we go.
It's been over 10 years, over a decade. You've had 3 or 4 different law enforcement agencies look at it and come to that same conclusion.
Yeah.
The city of Philadelphia were the ones that began this process when they determined the cause of death. That's on them to explain why they determined that. That had nothing to do with the Attorney General's office or any district attorney's office. I'll end this, where I began. My heart really does break for the Greenberg family. And I know that
might be true.
Some, maybe feel that lashing out at me in the media is helpful to their cause. I'm not going to stand in judgment of them. These are parents who are grieving and anguished. And again, I think no parent should have to bury a child.
Can we pause that right there, Joel?
Yeah, and I hang on one sec, Gavin, because I just want to respond because I'm getting J Cavs. Let me explain this to you. I'm watching on the delay. Really disappointed you, man. How about every president bites their... This has zero to do with politics. Everyone likes to make everything about politics. Everyone does. It's so annoying. My point, simple. I couldn't care less about whether he's a Democrat or Republican. I care about doing the right thing. The comparison to President Obama is that this guy is a very, very seasoned, smart politician.
Yes.
And it's almost as if he studied President Obama, is what I'm saying. Right here, I'll say, if you go and watch tape of President Obama, I'm so sick of people just saying everything is political. It's not political. I'm not making a comment. I'm not saying I hate President Obama. He's a very important president in our time, did a lot of great things, and I covered him. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm saying that this guy is mimicking a very polished president, and he's been doing it since he was in a lower office. And he's slick, and the slickness can get him past certain things. That's my only point. Don't irritate me. Anyway, let's go.
I gotcha.
But what was your point, Gav? Not you, Jake.
What was he? Oh, lashing out. I don't think the Greenbergs ever lashed out at Josh Shapiro. I've been going through everything. They haven't ever lashed out. The people who have lashed out, I have lashed out at Josh Shapiro. Tom Brennan has lashed out at Josh Shapiro. I think a lot of people have. But the Greenbergs, and Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but man, they have been steady Eddie through this whole thing. They have kept their eye on their goal, which was for the world to know that their daughter did not take her own life. That was been their goal from the very beginning. I don't think they lashed out at all.
I can't believe how calm they've been. I mean, it's crazy.
It's impressive.
My mom would have been at this guy's doorstep. But let's keep playing because I want to get to the other stuff. Here we go.
Isn't going to change the evidence here, and I'm hopeful that as this process goes forward, if any new information comes to bear, that it immediately be shared with the Chester County District Attorney and allow the DA there to conduct an investigation of that.
Again, Osborne has those 4 items. They have been shared with the Chester County District Attorney, but they have not looked at them. They said that in their statement that they didn't, or they said that in their meeting to Josh and Sandy. We just looked at the file. They didn't look at any of the new stuff. So that stuff has been shared. It's been given to them. It is damning, and they haven't looked at it yet.
All right.
I think the medical examiner coming forward now, though, and saying he no longer believes it's a suicide is enough to push this forward. Now, I mean, that's a big change.
This.
Yeah,
watch how he
that's a
minimizes
question
this.
For the DA in Chester County. It has to have some evidence with it, not just someone feeling different. But certainly if there's some evidence that this medical examiner has uncovered, I'm not familiar with that. I'm no longer the AG. If they have new evidence, new information, they should share that immediately. One of the things that was particularly frustrating to me when I was Attorney General is someone would have a press conference, claim to have new information. We would invite them into the AG's office, and then they actually didn't have any.
Look, that's complete gaslighting. He's making this broad statement. I was AG, and people would come in and say they had. and waste my time. So you people are wasting my time here, even though the medical examiner just said it's not a cell phone alignment.
It was particularly new, and
Gave
they
4
used the
reasons
media
why.
to keep the issue alive. I understand why parents would want to keep this alive. I understand why.
Look at that. I understand. I'm smart. I know more than you. I'm better educated. I'm the governor. I'm the top guy. I understand that they could be
Yeah.
upset.
He's very good
They
at
would
it.
want to find answers. I wanted nothing more than to be able to give them the answers that they wanted. But when
There's nothing more I wanted to do than just give them the answers. But I know all the answers. I just don't want to give them to them.
you're in the role of being a prosecutor, you have to follow the evidence. And we
And
never
he's never been a prosecutor.
Yeah, he's never been a prosecutor, and there's evidence that has not been followed.
Correct.
saw any evidence to suggest anything different. Then we shared the case with another district attorney, and they found the same.
No, they did not. They found the exact opposite.
Oh man. Okay, so
He bothers me
Yeah.
so much, man.
COE, you know the order here. COE, can you put these up in the correct? So now this is Brian Enton speaking to Dr. Wayne Ross, who was hired by the Greenbergs, I believe, to do sort of an independent autopsy, and he has some very interesting things to say. I'm just going to pull up this last one first. COE. This he's talking about how it doesn't make sense. Let's watch.
I'm going to call this a suicide, not a homicide. That somehow she stands up or leans over, stabbing myself. Oh, I get to get blood drops down there. Blood drops, get down there. Oh, not my hand, sorry. I used the left hand. Shouldn't have done that. Just the right. Blood drops. And then she falls to the ground. She's on it and everything else. Boot turns to the side. Oh, excuse me. Let me stab myself again and drop the blood on the side. Does that make any sense? No. No, of course not. Right? But that's what you're suggesting. I mean, you're not suggesting it. So there's blood drops there. They're coming straight down to it. And there's hair here. I mean, why the heck's there hair in between here? What's that from? Now, what happens is when you get hair like this, sometimes the person is defending themselves and literally the victim actually pulls their hair out. But the other times, the assailant is pulling the hair out. Either way, you got hair here in the middle. Does that make any sense to anybody?
What do you make of that, Gavin? That's what we have two
Yeah,
other clips.
And of course, Dr. Ross has all those crime scene photos. I've looked at the same crime scene photos. There is so much evidence, and you can talk with Guy DeAndre too. He had all these same questions.
Mhm.
There's so much evidence that point to Ellen being attacked, not to her attacking herself, right? And I'm no blood spatter expert, but there wasn't. It just doesn't look like the crime scene that you would expect it to look like.
Two interesting comments here. Number one, right here, this Gavin, I believe to be true. Shapiro says his heart breaks for Ellen's family, yet he's refused for years to even speak to them. He won't give them the time of day. That's cold-hearted. He doesn't care. I believe, Gavin, correct me, that they like the Greenbergs and the Shapiros go to the same temple over the high holidays, I believe in Western Pennsylvania.
In Harrisburg, they would, yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
Josh Greenberg, and this goes to just the amount of self-control that they have. They went to a service, and I don't know the terminology perfectly, but Josh Greenberg sat directly behind Josh Shapiro, never was given the opportunity to shake his hand or say hi or anything like that. They ushered Josh Shapiro out of there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, he's like, get me the hell away. I don't want to get stuck here. I only do photo ops after plane crashes. That's all I do. So I grew up in the Philly suburbs. This case makes me sick. It does not take an Emmy. It does not take an Emmy. The beautiful woman was murdered. Needs to stop. Okay, so here is the second clip of. This was the other thing I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry. I knew there was something. Where did that comment go? Because that's okay. Sunshine. I love this. Let's make a short of this as an expose. If there's anyone out there that's a good editor and wants to mash this up, kind of pointing out the the half truths, the completely false, the falsehoods here. If you want to cut it up, and send that to me, survivingthesurvivor@gmail. I will put it out on social. I'm sure Gavin will put it out on social. I would love to see that. It would be great. It'd be fantastic. And that's where STS Nation can definitely play a big role. So that'd be great. Okay, here's the second clip.
You believe that there was strangulation
Yes.
to medical certainty?
The reason was
So
Yeah.
Brian's question was, do you believe there was strangulation? And this is something that Josh Greenberg, he believes that Ellen was strangled and not stabbed to death. Let's play this.
medical certainty she was strangled. Yeah. I would testify in the court of law. I've said it in my reports.
Do you think there's any signs of abuse before the death?
I'm concerned about that, yes. And the reason I'm concerned about that is the bruises to the wrists, obviously strangulation, but there's extensive bruises to the lower legs. What is that about? Where does she get that? She's not a kickboxer. She's not in karate that I know of. She looks like a typical nice girl, very feminine looking. How'd she get those bruises down there?
That was clip 2. I mean, Gavin, you've looked at all these autopsy photos. I have a hard time looking at them, but you counted how many? And he's talking about the
59
legs.
bruises. And it's not just on her legs. I mean, her legs are really bruised up, but they're on her torso, her sides, her arms, her shoulders. They're everywhere. And I did an entire video about the strangulation thing because I was going through the autopsy photos and I saw a hemorrhage in her neck. What is that? And then I reached out to Tom Brennan. I was like, I'm seeing a hemorrhage in her neck. And he goes, yeah, read Dr. Ross's report. Send it to me. This was really, really early on. Then one of the things I did in Photoshop that is very, very helpful is I changed the saturation of things. And it just puts a spotlight on all the bruising. She was manually strangled, I think. I don't think there was any kind of ligature or anything because those bruises are different. There were oval shaped bruises here, and then like a line of bruises, almost like the webbing between your index finger and your thumb on her neck. There was a couple fingernail marks that looked like she was trying to pull a person's hand off of her neck. And then, of course, she had hemorrhaging on the inside of her neck. She was definitely strangled. I don't think she was strangled to death. I know Josh Greenberg believes that. But it doesn't really matter. She was killed, right? Whether it was by strangulation or by, 20 stab wounds to the front and back of her body. She was definitely killed.
Yeah. I'm going to harp on this again. We've got a good turnout for this, but it is basically a pittance in compared to what it would take to really influence the governor and cause him to actually act. So please, again, share, retweet. Someone please mash this up as a short with Gavin pointing everything out. We'll get it out there. This is the final clip. We'll get some final thoughts. And then next hour, we've got FBI agent Scott Duffy and Dr. Detective Troy Looney coming on to talk about a case weirdly similar to this. 26-year-old found dead in his apartment of an apparent suicide. Police did not investigate it, did not rule it out as a homicide. There's blood all over the apartment, things knocked over. And this kid had information, not kid, 26-year-old man, but he had information about OpenAI, and that has a lot of implications. I mean, AI is so big that the other day the stock market tanked because a Chinese AI company, came out with a better product. So there's tons of money behind that and influence, and that's what we're talking about next hour. This is a final clip here where this doctor is saying that this was a staged scene, which is tough to do if you self-unalive yourself.
Yeah.
The scene, first thing I noticed when I look at it, and I think synthetically, is, oh my goodness, this scene is staged. How do I know it's staged? Because I see her back up against the cabinets in the kitchen. Her arms are down by her side. The left hand is holding onto a towel. There's no blood on the towel. There's no blood on her hand. There's blood to the back of her left hand. To the right are her glasses. Now, obviously, she's not sitting there stabbing herself and then wiping herself with the towel. Why does she have a towel there? and there's no blood on the base of the left hand. She didn't use her left hand, obviously, to stab herself. And there's a towel in there. Why would she have a towel in her hand if she's going to be stabbing herself? And there's no blood in it. Well, she didn't. Somebody else put it there. It's staged.
By the way,
Gavin?
the knife handle goes off to the left. So either she would have to reach over herself with her right hand, stab herself
Interesting.
this direction.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the white towel, and it's not even a towel that belongs in the kitchen. It's a bath towel. It's one of their bath towels.
I'm worked up today, Gavin. I know you don't get you're way too refined and intelligent. I'm just lowly Jersey guy, and I'm annoyed. I'm just annoyed by this whole thing. And I know you've been doing this much longer than I, but just, we've both gotten to know Josh and Sandy. You can see it in Sandy's face how much this has taken from her financially, mentally, every which way. And Josh is getting older, and it's just been super difficult for them. And I know you're friends with other members of the family. To me, this has become really personal. I remember probably 5 years ago, someone mentioned this case to me, and I was like, when you just hear about something, there's so many cases going on, but this one I think has become, very close to both of our hearts, and I think we just want the right thing done. Obviously, nothing political here between you and I in terms of any, there's no political motivation at all. It's just doing the right thing here. But I don't know, man. I'm frustrated. I guess my question to you is, first of all, I think we're going to do a show on this on Monday, just recapping everything. We're going to try to get Tom Brennan on.
Awesome.
I'm going to try to get this Dr. Wayne Ross on.
Awesome.
Maybe get Gavin back on. And by the way, Guy DeAndrea, the homicide prosecutor, because I want to get the reaction to everything that happened, including
he was going to be a witness at the trial too. Yeah.
That's that's crazy. So what call to action? Read this. Oh, please like the video and subscribe to STS. That's our call to action. Please like the video and subscribe to STS. Thank you. Gavin, what's next, do you think? I mean, we got this massive sort of I hate using this, but because it's such a news cliche, but in this case, thank you. He's a double. Yeah, by the way, he did call other people before calling 911, namely people that Josh Shapiro is pretty tight with.
And it's not that there's a chance that he did. He did. It's on the record.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. So Gavin, what's next, man? I mean, now Dr. Marlon Osborne reverse course are there depositions? Is there a criminal investigation? Is there a wrongful death suit? What do you think happens now?
I think I asked Joe Pedraza if there will be a wrongful death suit. He said it's putting the cart before the horse right now, but it's possible. I think that there are a couple things that are happening behind the scenes to try to get the case investigated by an impartial law enforcement agency that would probably be the state police. Tom Brennan talked to you and I about that. And so I think that now that we've got Dr. Osborne saying Ellen did not do this to herself, I think that's enough for the Greenbergs to be able to take it to whoever has the power to be able to say, and I think it might be the Attorney General's office, which is now under the direction of a guy named Dave Sunday. He is the current Attorney General. And from what I can tell, he's no fan of Josh Shapiro. I think that
he's a good guy to X or tweet at, by the way.
Yeah. And then hopefully if they can get the Attorney General's office to take a look at it, they might refer it to the state police. And I think that I think the Greenbergs are in a very good position here. I really do. I think that Osborne saying she didn't do it to herself was enough. And we watched Dr. Ross with Brian there. Can you imagine if a jury would have heard his testimony?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean,
game over. Yeah.
The game over, right? Yeah. Yep.
Game over.
The city was wise to settle.
Yeah. Yeah, they sure were. Huge thanks to Gavin, who's actually working his regular job today and took his lunch break to do this. I really appreciate it. Gavin, I'll hit you
Happy
up
to
with
do
some
it.
texts over the weekend. Appreciate you being here. Love you, America. Love you, the Commonwealth of PA. And of course, justice for Ellen Greenberg. I think you're going to be redirected. And we're starting another show right now on Suchir Balaji, very similar to this case, which is weird. Gavin, thanks again.
Happy to be here.